Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Azzahra Dinda S and I'm the first speaker of Group 2. And I will explain you about language and view. So here is the PowerPoint about language and view. So first is structuralist. The structuralist approach to learning spans across a broad spectrum of disciplines, including sociology, anthropology, and language learning. The principles of structuralism are rooted in the theory that any major concept within a discipline all fit together in a meaningful way. Structuralism suggests that there is a specific structure or framework that makes up the total concept. The structuralist approach implies that in order to anyone to fully understand a concept such as linguistics, they first must understand the subsets and how these fit into the overarching structure. Additionally, an important factor in the structuralist approach is understanding that these subsets all fit and work together collaboratively. Next, principles of structuralism. There are 3 points. First is understanding the grammatical structures. Second, reading properly according to rules of comprehension. And third, writing properly according to the rules of proper grammar and mechanism using proper sentence structure. Strengths of structuralism. First, teaching English also supports proper use of the language in verbal and written expression. Second, increase the likelihood that the English learner will speak and write English in the proper way. The weakness of structuralism is less focus on the reading and creative writing of the student. The second is about interactionism. Interactionist is the theory that language is acquired from an interaction of a human's innate biological capabilities to acquire language with exposure to language in the environment in which the child is developing. The interaction theory of language development is a compromise between the nativist theory and the behaviorist theory of language development. The interaction theory recognizes that both environmental and biological factors are important in language development. Within this theory of compromise are theories who are closer to one end of the extreme than the other. However, all interactionists believe that language acquisition occurs as a result of the natural interaction between children and their environment. More specifically, their parents or caregivers. For example, interactionists believe that language is a byproduct of children's social interaction with important people in their life. Vygotsky believed that children develop a tone and language by actively interacting with adults. He states the child's concepts have been formed in the process of interaction in collaboration with an adult. So we move to what interactionists believe. First, language is a byproduct of children's social interaction with the important people in their life. Second, children develop thought and language by actively interacting with adults. Third, language develops as a natural consequence of this interaction and that it progresses to more complex levels. Next slide is about what interactionists don't believe. They do not believe that either of these Functionalism can refer to any one of various approaches to the study of grammatical descriptions and process that consider the purpose to which language is put and the context in which language occurs. Also called functional linguistics, contrasts with Chomskyan linguistics. Christopher Butler notes that there is a strong consensus among functionalists that the linguistic system is not self-contained and so autonomous from external factors, but is shaped by them. As discussed below, functionalism is generally viewed as an alternative to formalist approaches to the study of language. Next, we move to transformationalist. Transformationalist is to approach child language transformationally is to use a technique well suited to proving additional insight into a well-known language for treating an unknown and or best a little-known language. As we still know very little about human language, any approach towards its analysis may contribute something to our understanding of the subject. Transformationalism, for example, helps by focusing sharply upon certain grammatical relationships within a language. It is also useful as a pedagogical device, and I have successfully employed it to elucidate for American students some of the difficulties of the French subjunctive. There is always the danger, however, that new developments like penicillin may be pushed beyond their area of effectiveness. Moreover, at times there appears to be a confounding of the natural language, the psychology of speech, and the process of language learning, even though the transformationalists do not claim that their theory automatically provides a heuristic means of discovery. Okay, now we move to factors affecting language learning. Some students learn a new language more quickly and easily than others. This fact related to the crucial factors influencing success that are largely beyond the control of the learner. According to Light, Brown, and Spada, mention some factors affecting language learning. First is intelligence. The term intelligence has traditionally been used to refer to performance on certain kinds of tests. These tests are often associated with success in school, and a link between intelligence and second language learning has sometimes been reported. Second is aptitude. Specific abilities thought to predict success in language learning have been studied under the title of language learning aptitude. Research has characterized aptitude in terms of the ability to learn quickly. Thus, we may hypothesize that a learner with high aptitude may learn with greater ease and speed, but those other learners may also be successful if they persevere. Third is learning style. The term learning style has been used to describe an individual's natural, habitual, and preferred way of observing, processing, and retaining new information and skills. Some people say that they cannot learn something until they have seen it. Such learners would fall into the group called visual learners. Other people, who may be called oral learners, seem to learn best by ear. For others, referred to as kinesthetic learners, a physical action such as miming or role play seems to help the learning process. These are referred to as perceptive characteristics have been proposed as likely to affect second language learning. It is often argued that an extroverted person is well suited to language learning. Another aspect of personality that has been studied is inhibition. It has been suggested that inhibition discourages risk-taking, which is necessary for progress in language learning. Furthermore, learner anxiety feelings or worry, nervousness, and stress that many students experience when learning a second language has been extensively investigated. Fifth is motivation in intrinsic way. Motivation has been defined in terms of two factors: learners' communicative needs and their attitudes towards the second language. If learners need to speak the second language in a wide range of social situations or to fulfill professional ambitions, they will perceive the communicative value of the second language and will therefore be motivated to acquire proficiency in it. Likewise, if learners have good attitudes towards the speakers of the language, they will desire more to learn it. Sixth is motivation in extrinsic way. Teachers also influence on students' behavior and motivation in language learning. Teacher is one of students' reasons for studying in second language or having good attitudes towards language learning. Teachers can give a positive contribution to students' motivation to learn if classrooms are a place that students enjoy coming to because the content is interesting and relevant to their age and level of ability. The learning goals are challenging yet manageable and clear, and the atmosphere is supportive. Seventh is culture and status. There is some evidence that students in situations where their own culture has a lower status than that of the culture in which they are learning the language make slower progress. Social factors at a more general level can affect motivation, attitudes, and language learning success. One such factor is the social dynamic or power relationship between the languages. And the last is age. Second language learning is influenced by the age of the learner. Children who already have solid literacy skills in their own language seems to be in the best position to acquire a new language efficiently. Motivated older learners can be very successful too, but usually struggle to achieve native speaker equivalent pronunciation and intonation. Research found that age distinguishes children and adults in learning second language in certain aspects such as phonology, morphology, and syntax. So that's all from me. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Syifa Fauziyah Surahman. I'm from the second group of Psycholinguistics. I would like to tell you about cognitive process. The cognitive process in humans that allow for the individuals to express and create language are complex processes with multiple steps. Language is a process that is unique to humans and can be expressed in a variety of ways, such as through physical expression, verbal, or even through the use of visual processes. These cognitive processes include thinking, knowing, remembering, judging, and problem solving. These are higher level functions of the brain and encompass language, imagination, perceptions, and planning. Language is an exceptionally convoluted cycle that incorporates discourse, yet non-verbal communications, and communication via gestures for the individuals who are discourse impeded. Since the part of intellectual brain science incorporates critical thinking, dynamic learning, and talking, to give some examples, all connect to language and language preparing. And there are cognitive skills include attention, short-term memory, long-term memory, logic and reasoning, auditory processing, visual processing, and processing speed. Short-term memory is where memory is recalled without practicing, sometimes that happen recently. Short-term memory is depending on the regions of the frontal or parietal lobes. It's believed to rely on an acoustic cord for storing information. Long-term memory is the ability to store more information for long periods of time, like phone numbers, names, and address from cats. Logic and reasoning. Two kinds of logical reasoning are often distinguished in addition to formal deduction. And then auditory processing. Preparing is a term used to portray what happens when your mind perceives and decipher the sounds around you. People hear when fidelity that we perceive a sound goes through the ear and it thanks to electrical data that can be deciphered by the cerebrum. Visual processing is the capacity to decipher the general conditions, analyzing light in the obvious range reflected by the item in the earth. This is not the same as visual appearance, which allowed to how unmistakably an individual sees. Processing speed is cognitive ability to could be defined as the time it takes a person to do a mental task. It is related to the speed in which a person can understand and reach to the information that decides whether it be visual letters and numbers, auditory language, or movement. Maybe that's all from me. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Rizka Fahma Sabila H. I'm going to talk to you about understanding and producing a language. In this case, a speech. First of all, we have to know that the process of producing a speech and understanding a speech in communication is kind of complicated matter from a language point of view. Now let's talk about the understanding first. In the process of understanding a speech, a mental process has occurred in the body of the listener, so the listener doesn't only passively register all of the sound, all of the speech sound, but he actively processes them in his mind. Some speech are easy to be understood, and some of them are hard and difficult to be understood. The listener actively reconstructs the language sound and sentence in harmony with the expectation, both linguistically and psychologically. So far, the linguist thought that the process of understanding is kind of a simple thing, but it's not true. It has been proven by the phonetician and psycholinguists. And there is some reason why some speech is hard to be understood. First, the listener cannot match the individual sounds, like the speed of the speech, and then the second reason is there is no definite sound representation with typewriter symbols, and then there are some sounds that sound similar to other, like the d sound and t sound. And then the listener processes the sound actively looking at the various possible sound messages using their background knowledge of language. Now let's talk about the producing of the language. The purpose of speech production process is to produce a set of sounds that are used to convey the ideas or meaning to others. The objective component of conveying meaning involves the speaker's desire to convey a proposition to the other or the listener. The goals and the proposition are the main ideas that speaker want to convey to other, and this subject is conceptual, not linguistic, and the transmission of the thought is carried out in the form of language or in the form of behavior. The goals involve various desires such as asking, denying, affirming, and giving other order through the proposition. And then there is something called semantic representation. It is the real meaning that speaker want to convey to the listener. And then the phonological formula produce a phonetic representation where is the surface structure as input. The phonetic representation determines that the pronunciation of entire sentence. This phonetic representation is speech that responded to the psychological state and contain discrete language, sound, prosthetic feature such as sound, b, and stress. This is how the speech process the brain control the movement of the tongue, lips, vocal cord, and so on, so that the sound of physical language can be produced. This signal contains sound waves that can occur based on frequency amplitudes change in the time, and language sounds are not recognized as discrete sound. On the other hand, the sound of language is a complex combination of continuous